what does the community need, what do they want. So I have this quote in here from Beatrice Beckford, looking at the food justice issue. And a lot of people, and we have heard about this issue in the neighborhood that we're in called Montbello. It's a neighborhood that is on the very edge of Denver County, and access, even by bus, has been really cut off. And these people have one grocery store, which is Walmart. And when we ask the community members, there's a task force now there looking at, why is food such a hard issue in this neighborhood? A lot of people say, I just think people don't think we want fresh food. People think that we just want, canned food, something that's cheap, and that's not true. We want to cook food in our homes, but we need the access. So in this neighborhood, we really have seen this outpouring of the neighborhood people coming to this farm stand and letting us know, I want more collard greens, and we'll cook them in a fresh way. So, we try to grow what the people want. We bring okra to that market, but we also try to say, hey, have you thought about not cooking the collards for 4 hours, and boiling them down until they're just kind of like, is that a vegetable or is that seaweed? Have you thought about maybe just doing like a light saute, or a light, boiling some water just in your saute pan, softening it up, and then having it with tomato sauce, because the acid in the tomato sauce kind of breaks down the collards and makes it sweeter and more palatable. And actually collards are a superfood as well. So trying to meet the healthy makeover to the traditional cooking is something that we have to do with a lot of respect. We don't want to be the farm stand telling people this is how you should cook. We want people to enjoy their own food and their own recipes, but just maybe in a little bit of a healthier way. So this is a slide about the Finney grant. This is a USDA grant that started in 2015. And basically it's that SNAP incentive piece that we were doing on our own, at our own farm, just giving people 50% off. But Colorado last year applied for the Finney grant, and last year was our first year of doing Double Up Colorado. So anyone who comes to a farm stand and has a SNAP card will receive $1 for every dollar they spend. And this really helps the small farmer. Like I said before, we were doing our own incentive program. We were just kind of covering those costs with grant funding and other means. But so now the Double Food Bucks Colorado pays us to incentivize the SNAP. So for a small farmer who wants to have more of a diverse operation and include their community but can't really afford it, the Double Bucks and the Finney grant pays those farmers and puts money into their pockets. So I was able to double, or maybe even last year triple, the amount of SNAP sales that we did, because we would give them Double Bucks, and then people can come back the following week and make purchases even without their SNAP card or money at all, because they have those Double Bucks. So it's a great marketing program for fresh food as well, because people have to come back and use those Double Bucks the following weeks. So this is 2008, how much SNAP shoppers spent on healthy food. And then in 2016, after the Finney program got started, you can see that fresh food purchases are just exploding in the States. And this is very true for Colorado. On the left, you can see these are our total sales for the 2016 season of SNAP dollars. So the Montbello location that I was talking about, the one that's very far out, kind of removed from grocery stores, when we started that farm stand, we had maybe in the first year $150 that people had spent. And we thought that was a lot of money, because we're selling 50% off vegetables. I mean, every purchase is about $4. It's not like people are buying anything that's that expensive. It's fruit and veg, 50% off. And so seeing this number grow to the $1,200 range for SNAP purchases, thinking about each customer spending maybe $4 a time, it's really, really exploded. And again, growing the right foods. A lot of growers in Denver don't think that they can grow okra. We grow a ton of okra. The okra is amazing, and people are so excited to find fresh okra in their own neighborhood. I mean, it's something that really has taken off. Here's another one of our farm stands. Some farm stands we do, we just pop up indoor in office buildings. So this is a Denver Human Service location inside, and here we have the veterans working with an at-risk youth community group. They pay teenagers to go and to work out into the community, and so we've hired a couple of these teenagers to work at the farm stand, which is a great community engagement piece because they bring in their family members, their parents want to see them at their farm stand job, so we give them a discount for produce and for fruit, and they come in and see their kids working. And then the veterans working with the people in these neighborhoods was something that was just a great overlay. Veterans, you know, having that kind of hero idea of serving their community, of helping people in need, they can continue that on by growing food and distributing food to people who really need the help. And so that was a perfect fit for our veteran program. So one of the other ideas too is just making sure that where we bring our fresh food is where people are already traveling in their day-to-day lives. Trying to get community members from all across Denver to go to one farmer's market and having to navigate the parking and the different culture, and a lot of farmers markets have incentive programs that are like wooden nickels or different currencies. And that's really confusing to people who don't even speak the same language, and maybe a farmer's market in America is something that's kind of a foreign concept. It's a little bit intimidating. So instead, putting this little farmer's market at the library, at the Denver Human Services building, somewhere where they're comfortable, where they're going on their day-to-day lives, I think has really helped. At the end of the farm stand, wherever we are, if we have leftover produce, one of our missions and goals is to keep the food in the neighborhood. We don't bring it back to the farm. We don't distribute it anywhere else. So we have to identify partners living in that neighborhood, operating in that neighborhood, that can take the food and keep it in the neighborhood. So there's, you know, several food banks and several organizations that we've identified in each neighborhood that we can donate to. And then here's a picture of one of our cooking demos. Like I said, we have a lot of nutrition and cooking information at the farm stand, and here are our teenagers that we've hired for the season who are a great help to us, and they love working the farm stand. Here are some veterans working at the farm to grow the food as well, which is something that people like knowing, like a veteran grew my food. They get excited about that. This is one of my favorite farm stand pictures. This guy is a regular at our farm stand. He grew up on a farm, which we get a lot of. We get a lot of people who walk by the farm stand and they smell something fresh and they think, oh, I haven't smelled fresh herbs or the smell of a fresh tomato in years and years and years. And this guy discovered our tomatoes. The first time he came to our farm stand, he ate 5 gigantic heirloom tomatoes like apples, one after another. He comes every week. He's on a fixed income. He's a senior, and so we just give him free tomatoes. He can't really afford it. He doesn't want to mess around with any other vegetables. He just wants his fresh tomatoes. He eats a couple and he goes on his way. So building in the capability to be able to say, I can tell you walk by this farm stand every day and you haven't purchased anything. I know that you can't afford it. I know that maybe you need us to reach out to you. And so we just call it a free sample. We don't call it a handout. Just would you like to sample something? People can fill up a bag of something that they want to sample and be on their way. They don't need to pay us. And other people who come to the farm stands pay more than what our prices are because they know that we're doing that. So this is a community partner we have. On the right here, her name of her farm stands is Mobetta Greens. She operates in a lot of Denver neighborhoods, primarily African American. And like I said, we donate our food and keep it in the neighborhood. So after our farm stands are done, we take all of our leftover produce in that one neighborhood and we give it to Beverly Grant with Mobetta Greens, and she does juicing demos. And she gets people so excited about juice with tons of vegetables in it. She doesn't do a lot of cooking demos because it's hard at a farm stand to do that, but she has a juicer and a blender, and I tell you, her juices will heal you. And she has people coming from all over. Think about if you're homeless and you're dehydrated and you've been out in the Colorado sun all day on the streets, and you find Mo Better greens and you can drink some fresh juice, it revitalizes you. And so we give a lot of our produce to her. We've been doing it for years, and in return she can come to our farm to fork dinners. She's helped us prepare dinners for us and food, and get the rest of our shareholders and our normal Botanic Garden members involved with what she's doing to support her as well. Any questions?
So I have kind of like more of a big picture kind of goal. So 2 questions. The first is, how do you measure your success? So is it on the, for example, with the veterans, maybe there's multifacets. Like, is it them finding jobs? Is it, selling a certain amount of produce? So how do you measure success? And then also, how do you fit this within your garden's mission? So how do you know when you've gone outside of your mission and when, you're focusing? Because it sounds like you're doing a lot in the community that's complementing the farm, but it's still a little bit outside of just growing.
Well, so we are partially funded, this program is partially funded by Kaiser Permanente. We tend to work with a lot of healthcare providers who are interested in community health, and I'm sure all of you know in this room the reporting that goes on for grants. So we track everything. We track regular customers. We track if it's a regular customer and the beginning of the season they would only buy 2 items, and at the end of the season they're buying 4, that's a success for us. We track people who would stop by the farm stand and not really purchase anything, just kind of take a look, and then finally at the end of the season they're using the small amount of money that they have to buy something. That's a success for us, and we track that. One of the ways that we evaluate the program, we're putting together a farm stand film. So we interview regular customers from the farm stands, and we juxtapose that with images and footage from the farm. So a lot of the community members are skeptical about farm stands. The produce doesn't really look the same as it does in the grocery store. And so broadening the awareness of what does my food look like and when is my food available, that's a big success for us. And that's something that the Denver Botanic Gardens, food in general, is a part of our mission. Transformation and relevance, staying relevant in the community is a really big mission for us, and so we feel like the farm stands keep us relevant. It keeps us at the precipice of what's important to people, which is food. So yeah, we do a lot of numbers reporting, and then that film has really been helpful for us to kind of see the growth and the change and the involvement with the community. Did that answer it?
Yeah, and with Denver, do you have, how does Chatfield Farms fit into your mission for the garden?
So Chatfield Farms has had a lot of different personalities over the years. We are the satellite location of the regular Denver Botanic Gardens. And to be honest with you, that's a really good question that I think if you asked anyone at Denver Botanic Gardens, they would probably have a different answer. But part of the farm stand and part of the CSA program has really been refining our personality and our place within the larger Botanic Garden. 2 years ago, we changed our name to Chatfield Farms, and we've really been trying to restore our identity back to one that's agricultural. We're not an event center. We're not just growing pumpkins because it makes a lot of money. We're a farm. The land that we farm on actually was the home of a homesteading farmer from Germany originally. They had cattle, they had mixed crops, they had a fruit orchard, and getting the land back to that sort of sense of stewardship and taking care of the land in a healthy way, looking at our soils, restoring our wild spaces so it's not just invasives, but actually the plants that are native to the region. That is really what our personality is becoming. So we're trying to get there and trying to fit in. Our director is actually in the room. He might speak to that a little bit more.
Gee, thanks, Debbie. No, it's a unique place because, as she said, we're finding our personality among Denver Botanic Gardens, but we're a very highly working landscape. And that includes both historical agriculture agritainment, which we'll talk about tomorrow. And so, and plus we have a lot of really beautiful gardens that mostly emphasize native plants. We're doing native plant restoration. So we're just, we're still defining what we are, but it's been an interesting journey to get there. And Joe's has been a key part of it.
Any other questions? Yeah.
You said you renamed yourself Chatfield Farms 2 years ago. What did you call this part of Denver again before you named
Before,
Yeah.
it was Denver Botanic Gardens of Chatfield.
Okay.
But because the original land was 2 farms, it was 2 different families on either side of the river Deer Creek that runs through our land. And we thought, you know, it really is 2 farms, and so bringing it back to that. So we were just Denver Botanic Gardens, which really is confusing. We have people who arrive at the farm, and it's a windswept, you know, sort of prairie around it farm, and they're looking for these, you know, the orchids, and they're looking for this like conservatory that's like beautiful and, you know, deco, and we're like, well, you need to go downtown. So just getting it to where when the visitor arrives, they're looking for a farm, and they see that when they come, that's like, yeah, that was a really big challenge for us. It's better. Any other questions?
How did y'all acquire the farm? Was it donated or did you purchase it?
So in the 60s, they built a really large reservoir on the other side of the property, and the Army Corps of Engineers had to raise the land a lot in order to build the dam, and that created a giant floodplain on the other side of the road where the farms are, and so the area was condemned for habitation. And it just sort of fallowed. The people had to move out of the ranches and the farmhouses that they lived in, and it sat. And then Denver Botanic Gardens started basically leasing it from the Army Corps of Engineers, and I think they charge us like $1 a year or something like that, just to maintain it. And so part of the push and pull of the site is really, I think the Army Corps would like it to be maintained, but not necessarily to start, you know, building and expanding and really using this every single square inch of the land, which is what we want to do. And so it's really been this kind of push and pull of how much can we expand, how much can we develop, how much can we grow. And inevitably, you know, we're growing a lot. We're growing food really close into Denver. We have one of the largest CSAs in the entire Denver area because farms are not located close to Denver. Land is too expensive. Property values have skyrocketed, and so that farming piece is kind of being pushed out of Denver. Yeah.
In hours or dollars, what is the labor input for the CSA?
You have to come to our session tomorrow morning. We're talking all about it, and I think I'm out of time.
Why don't you take one more question and I'll
Okay.
check the computer.
Oh, I don't know. You go.
Okay, I was gonna ask, you said you have visitors at the farm? Is it open to the public?
The
And
farm is
that
open to the
problematic?
public,
No?
and that provides, you know, a lot of challenges, but the market garden has really become the public face of the farming side. So on most farms, you know, you don't see little labels on each crop because we just don't have time to do that, and because we till over them and break them all the time. In the market garden, every crop is labeled with a picture of the part that you eat. That's a huge challenge, and that was something that when we finally got that done, we thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're in a farm, and it's pretty large scale for Denver, but still you can see each crop. So if you don't speak English, or if you don't read, you can still know what you're looking at and what's edible. So yeah, people can just walk up to any part of the farm and ask us, what are you doing? So we have to tell our seasonal staff, you know, cut with the bad language because there's like kids around, you know, so. And what was your question really quick? Okay, thanks.